Can't wait to have. Can't wait for the 5K we're going to see against top 5 PSU.
Oh God, fuck me in the ass.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome back, Mighty Vandals. The Tubs of the Club, brought to you this weekend by Snake River Stampede Whiskey, but we will tell you a little bit more about that later in the show. You might be able to hear that we've been drinking it already tonight. We are unfortunately the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. And unfortunately, I am your host, Dallas Hammer, also unfortunately joined by brave, bold Brian Marceau. Brian, I'm not even going to ask you how it's going because I know the answer is fucking shit. So, Brian, we're coming to the people live, quote unquote, instantly after the worst Vandal loss in at least 5 years. Well, 4 years, I guess. Petrino was only gone 4 years ago, but 49-33 homecoming loss to Northern Colorado, where the game was over. Honestly, it felt like as soon as Jack Wagner threw that first interception. 4 minutes into that game, 7-0, give them the ball inside the 35. That was pretty much all she wrote, Brian. I'm going to let you take it from there because we have got a lot to get to about this episode.
Yeah, this was one thing. And hey, before we remind people we're at Around the Bar, just I really want to preface this, people. If you read the box score, this could be one of those games where you're like, well, some of the stats, I mean, I know the final score wasn't great, but some of the stats are kind of close, right? That had to be okay. This is a thing. You had to watch this game, guys. This was a nightmare. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is the type of loss that makes you reassess all the evidence that took place before this game and makes you reassess everything you thought about the team. Like, hey, whether you're glass half full, glass half empty kind of guy, I just don't think anyone saw. And I want to give credit to Northern Colorado. I've actually been giving credit to Northern Colorado on my Big Sky show every Sunday. they're not a terrible team, but they always let you down because they can't score. Yeah, that wasn't the case today, Dallas. Northern Colorado could have hung 56 on Idaho if they didn't mercy roll us at the end. This is a Northern Colorado team that had not scored more than 28 points since 2022. No one in a Northern Colorado game had scored more than 26 until this game. So, hey, we set a record on both ends, Dallas. Idaho did get 30. They broke that 26-point ceiling. Downside, Northern Colorado broke it too.
35 points from Northern Colorado in the first half, Brian. Before we get to that, do we think our friends at Hughes River want us to do an ad read, or do they not want to be associated with this?
Well, Colin did pay for it. We already have his money, so we probably don't have to, but let's honor this for now.
Colin, I was just thinking of you here, buddy, because man, the emotion here is really cratering. But guys, if you're disappointed in Vandal football, one thing you're not going to be disappointed in is a great all-inclusive week-long vacation right in your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions is Vandal owned and operated and have been since 1976. They're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. You can check out special trips like one to see the Pursehead Meteor Shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire country. Just bring your clothes, call in an HRE, will handle everything else. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now, 406-540-4450, or check them out at hughesriver.com. Brian, I don't even know where to start. This was an abomination in all three phases of the game. This coaching staff got absolutely outcoached and outclassed from minute 1 to minute 60. There's not a whole lot of positives to talk about. So
I want to just hit them as bullet points and then move on to how we are actually responding to the game.
Yeah.
I'll just run through the bullet points. Rocco Koch was great running the football.
We're going to talk line, baby.
We're going to talk about Rocco in the other end of the show too. But Rocco Koch was essentially what kept Idaho in this game. Virtually every scoring drive was based off some work from Rocco Koch. He did not get to throw a pass. He took all his snaps under quarterback, rushed 10 times for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's hard. It is hard to stress how much every single person in that stadium was wondering when Koch came on the field and started to deliver, how he could have come off at all, because the recipe for Idaho this game to keep their defense off the field, the run the football thing that we've talked about, Rocco Koch was the key to that, and then have that buttressed by guys like Eli Cummings and Nate Thomas. Want to talk about Eli Cummings for a second? Cummings had some good moments too. Cummings had a 39-yard touchdown reception, 5 catches for 67 yards, and then he rushed the ball 7 times for 47 yards. So he came a little over 100 total accrued yards on the game for Eli. Nate Thomas was solid, 15, not spectacular, but solid, 15 rushes for 66 yards and a touchdown. I've exhausted what went well.
Let me think. The little popcorn helmet was cool.
The attendance was not bad at all.
Yeah. The crowd was the quietest sellout / closest sellout I've ever heard, but there wasn't anything to cheer for on the stadium or on the field. So, can't really blame people for that. The Joe and Jane helmet decal was cool.
Don't know if we'll see it again after this game.
Sure hope not. Sure fucking hope not.
Hey, Ross Warren, the crowd was quiet on offense.
That's
it. They're quiet for a few things.
Good point, Ron. Thank you for Ross. Thank you for keeping us honest there. Shout out Ross Warren, keeping us on the right track, just like Zach Claus. The student section, shout out, man. They did not screw anything up with abhorrently loud chants on 3rd or 4th down. that was because the crowd was pretty quiet most of the game. Wasn't a whole lot to cheer for, but yeah, Brian, I think you just covered everything that went well.
You and I made it back home.
Yeah. I kind of wish I didn't. But you know, it's neither here nor there. Oh, actually, I take it back. How did we miss this? Owen Adams hit a field goal.
He did.
So we got a field goal in 38 yards from the right hash. So we do have a kicker that can get from the right hash. So that was nice. Yeah, Brian, do you want to hit what didn't go well?
We made the Northern Colorado fans feel as good about themselves as they have for a long time.
Man, shout out to Bear Claw Media. We've gotten into it with the folks over there from time and time back when the McCaffrey days were going wild, and we told them how fucking awful their team was, and sure enough, the team ended up being fucking awful. Wow. Ed Lamb came to play, and Northern Colorado got their biggest win in years and years and years.
Yeah, so I guess what I want to say here, that'll let us transition in a second, Dallas, is what I saw in the second half of Northern Colorado, Idaho State, is that Ed Lamb bailed on the run game, and they went to the pass game. It was not nearly enough because Idaho State played far tougher defense than Idaho did. But Ed Lamb read the room and read the scouting report against Idaho and put together, we need to beat these guys vertically, because Northern Colorado, as we said on our show, they rely on big plays for their scores. And we saw that against Idaho. Now, the downside is usually when teams rely on big plays, you're trying to say like, hey, let's keep it. If we can keep it to 2-ish or something like that, we're fine. Then they'll have a parade of punts otherwise. Idaho was abused vertically the entire game. And it wasn't just it was not just Cheeks for Northern Colorado. That was not the only dude who did it. It was, if anyone on Northern Colorado who went deep had a chance. I mean, Carver Cheeks didn't even lead Northern Colorado in receiving yards. Carver Cheeks had 120 receiving yards and was the second most prolific receiver on that team.
He did have 9 catches. He was the number one target, but yeah.
Yes, but Braden Monroe, 5 catches for 151 yards, guys. Quarterback, we talked about Eric Gibson, who I'd seen him play multiple times. Told you he was solid, not spectacular. He looked pretty damn good, going 22-34 for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that's a long way of saying what did not go well. That was the worst defensive performance I believe I have ever seen in the Kibbe Dome. And I've watched a lot of bad football in that Kibbe Dome. Mm-hmm. Idaho was abused deep, time and time and time again. And honestly, as the game wore on, look, Idaho has this. I mean, it's this like, dealer's choice. The secondary cannot hang with receivers at D1 level. They can't. We've seen it. But the D line's getting no pass rush. So what do you do when you cannot get pressure on the quarterback but can't stay in front of receivers? What you do is lose. So that's what we saw. And also eventually some of the tackling started to wear down a little bit, but by that point where we started to see where that became a little bit of a problem, the game was pretty much over from what I saw, Dallas. So I mean, that's the first thing we need to talk about, the defense for a little bit longer for sure. Northern Colorado, 8 of 13 on third downs. Yeah, they've been 29% on the year. Against like not really that tough schedule, 29%. Idaho legitimately made Northern Colorado, a team that had not scored 28 points since 2022, made them look like 2010 national championship Eastern Washington with the way they were able to throw the ball around the field. I'll let you go there, but the flooring thing was time after time after time after time. Idaho DBs were beat deep in one-on-one coverage. Mm-hmm. The Gibson made the throws, but the guys were always there, and they were almost never difficult catches, almost always in stride. Take it away, dude.
Yeah, Crewhead 76 in the comments. DBs don't get their head around. D-line is soft, but blitz package sucks. Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Coach Ford said it in the post game. The defensive issues he was asked about, if it's the coverage, if it's the pass rush, what it is, and he said, it is a mixture. Obviously, the two go hand in hand. If the coverage isn't great, like the pass rush has to be stellar. If the pass rush isn't stellar, coverage has to be great, and they feed off of each other. But he said specifically they have to do a better job of game planning the pass rush because it's just not getting home. But ultimately, and he mentioned this like 4 different times in the 10-minute press conference, the defensive issue was primarily the defensive backs, and it sounded like pointing it at the talent and execution in the room more than the coaching, because he specifically said, man, it doesn't matter if you're playing man, it doesn't matter if you're playing zone. If your corners are getting shredded by the receivers every single play, if you can't win a one-on-one, it doesn't matter what the call is because you're going to lose. And he specifically mentioned when that ball goes in the air, man, there were times that the Northern Colorado guys didn't seem to realize they were going to be getting the ball, but the ball just goes up into the air and nobody from Idaho finds anything. And that was it, Brian. It was big pass after big pass. Hit in the comment section. Super George 111 pass rush has been non-existent. Madison McCord, shout out Maddie. I haven't talked to you in a long time, dude. Hope you're well. DBs immediately get smoked and we go, you know what? Let's send more pressure and leave these guys on an island again and again and again. That's absolutely, I do not know why. It did not feel like there was a ton of safety help today. But also because I think the talent depth is so low, as Ross Warren says, our talent depth is so bad. We had a safety, Hayden John, playing nickel corner all game. Well, and hell, the way he was lined up was almost like a pass rusher at times, just in the way that they were lined up pre-snap. Man, it did not make any sense to me at all what was going on. We are 6 games into this, Brian, and I'm not sitting here saying coaches have to be fired tonight. That's what this instant reaction / apology is for. And we will get to the apology part, guys. I know we have 51 live viewers, a lot of people really excited for Brian and I to eat some crow tonight. But man, 6 games in and this defense is only getting worse. And I know that injuries have a lot to do with both sides of the ball. Obviously, you're down to quarterback number 3 this afternoon. Losing Aaron Kinsey in what was already an extremely thin defensive back room has made some very obvious issues even worse. But man, at some point, Court Dennison, you got to see more from this defense. Like,
yeah,
they're in nickel the entire game, which again, Northern Colorado's throwing the ball around. I get having the extra DB out there, but man, I feel like the strength of this team is your linebackers. Hepburn, King, and Lane are 3 great linebackers. Cornelson's pretty good too. He was out today, but why weren't those 3 guys on the field? I didn't see Cruz Hepburn really at all in the second half, and that made no sense to me in a game where Northern Colorado was pretty content to let Idaho just move the ball slowly down the field because the game was over at halftime. They're up 18 points. Like, of course they're going to let Idaho move down the field and connect on these 6-yard passes. They're just waiting for the clock to run out. And that's really what it came down to, Brian, was just feeling like Idaho was never in this start to finish, and it was because the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. I know that the offense put up 33 points. That's cool and all. Man, that's 33 empty points. The game was over at halftime.
I mean, I talked on the show previously saying, hey, Idaho, I believe, needs to play like they need to score 35. Well, no one can play like you need to score 56 to win games, guys. Like there's virtually no one who can do that. So yeah, we'll talk about the offensive stuff in a second, Dallas. But yeah, I'm baffled. We look on this show. We try to not be like the dumbest version of, YouTubers, whatever you want to call us. That this defense has to be better. I mean, honestly, I don't know how Court Dennison, when he shows up this week, I have no idea how he doesn't believe he has a half season to coach for his career right now. Mm-hmm. Because you said it's getting worse. There's parts that are getting worse, but like the other thing that people should keep in mind, I actually don't think the injury bug has hit the defense that much. I'm not pushing back on what you're talking about with depth, but hey, I said this makes you reevaluate things, right? Mm-hmm. Go back to that WSU game. Rogers kept Idaho in that game by refusing to pass the ball.
And by using the wrong quarterback, apparently, because apparently Eckhouse is their guy now.
Yeah, easily their guy. Also, that was we don't need to talk about that game. That was baffling. But Rogers kept Idaho in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Utah Tech couldn't pass the ball, so there was no way to exploit Idaho there. But St. Thomas passed all over Idaho. Montana passed all over Idaho. And this is what Idaho's going to see from now on, guys. Every single team is going to attack this secondary. And if you don't have that answer against Northern Colorado, I don't know if you have that answer against anyone on the schedule outside of like Eastern Washington and Portland State. And look, we're not sky is falling people on this show, but I'm serious. Like, I know you're saying like you're not sure about Eastern. Eastern probably feels Idaho's vulnerable because they are, but I'm just saying, like, hey, just to be completely fair, those are the only two teams right now who might not be able to exploit Idaho's secondary. Every other team at least has the talent to do that. And even Sac State has to be looking at this thinking, I don't know if they've got the guys to make Cardell Williams throw his annual 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's more how I view this. Is not that the depth is an issue. Depth is an issue. And we know that when Ford took over and kept Idaho guys here, he kept depth pieces, guys who look like they're at least a year away from wanting to be in starters type positions. Mm-hmm. And the only way this is solved is the secondary, to me, is truly solved is in the off season with new people, because the best guys are playing in secondary and they're getting completely abused.
Yeah. And that also comes back to coaching. Again, I'm not sitting here trying to call for anybody's head, because I'm not a coach. I'm just a fan that's got a microphone. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, people listen to us. Man, Tristan Deku is very, very, very inexperienced as the corners coach. Has 1 year as a assistant coach at Oregon State, which is where he played. Yes, he was on some NFL rosters. He had a cousin that made a Pro Bowl once, I think. Maybe he didn't. Thought he did. Anyways, whatever. Deku was the safety in Atlanta 15 years ago. But Brian, I'm not sold on having a corners coach that is in realistically his second year as a coach, and we are not seeing any improvement from what is a very young room. Caleb Ricks has certainly looked good, and there have been some guys that have popped. Deuce Blenman's had a good game here and there. Like, there are certainly guys that show moments of looking like they can do something, and then it just does not consistently happen. A Crewhead 76. We miss Franks. James TA. We miss Franks a lot. Yeah, Stanley Franks. Man, that was a big hit. But then you circle back to Roger Dorn here. Defense combined with the special teams losing 25 yards in field position every time we trade punts. That's the other thing. Like, the defense is not great, but special teams is not helping. Offense is not, like, there's no real complementary football going on here, because when you're punting out of your end zone and they're getting the ball inside the 50, we already know the defense is weak. What are we doing here?
Yeah, a lot of net 30-ish yard punts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
And this was not one of the worst special teams days.
No.
Like, there were not the kick return game from UNC wasn't why UNC won this game. The field position that UNC often had, it didn't help, but that wasn't why Idaho lost the way the Vandals did and went 1-for-1 on field goals. So, like, all things considered, this was even one of the better special teams days. But the ceiling right now for Idaho special teams is not causing problems for Idaho. It's the avoidance of a negative on special teams right now is the ceiling. So no, I really, really don't know what else what changes we're going to see, Dallas, because I agree with you. The strength of the team is the linebackers. And look, we know some of the D-line guys are solid. Like, we've seen Zach Krotzer be a very good player. Now, he was always in a more complimentary type of role previously. Like, we've seen Sam Brown be a good player. But again, he was, when Keyshawn James Newby is on the edge and, you're in the middle, then things change for you, right? So not trying to call out any of those guys like individually, especially guys we've seen play well. But we're halfway through the season. We are 7 weeks through a 13-week season counting the bye. If you haven't gotten any pressure on the quarterback by this point, we can just say as a team that's something you don't do. So that leaves this team with essentially hoping the other coaching staff didn't watch film or doesn't have a quarterback who can throw whatsoever. And that tackling is just at apex WSU level when Idaho treated that WSU game like it was a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Brian, Idaho has 5 interceptions, excuse me, 5 sacks in 6 games. That's not going to get it done. When, again, as Coach Ford properly pointed out, it doesn't matter what your calls are. If your corners are getting beat on every play, there's nothing you can do about that. Now, I would argue there probably is some coaching that could be done here.
Damage control, you mean?
Yeah, we're going to get into some of the offensive comments and the way the offense performed, and we will certainly cover all of that. But again, he harped on it multiple times in the press conference that, look, when you allow vertical passes consistently like that, you're going to lose football games, and it is what it is. Crewhead 76. I had a teammate at Idaho we called Toast. Guess what position he played? I'm guessing I could probably guess who that specifically is, Crew. I'm not going to do that, but we're going to take a wild guess and say that DB was getting toasted. And that's the nature of being a defensive back, right? Like, you can be great all game and then you have one bad play and that's what everybody remembers you for. However, this is a pretty consistent thing when Northern Colorado is putting up a 50 burger if they had actually tried to put up the 50 burger. The 49-point Mercy burger is maybe harder to swallow than the 56-point burger would have been. But Brian, any final thoughts on the defense before we get to another sponsor and then we get to some talks about how poorly the offense had done?
No. The brain dead simple version is Idaho was just absolutely COVID era Cal Poly bad against the pass, and not great, not awful, but not great against the run. But most of the time when UNC needed a two yards for a third down conversion, they got it. And that was all the run game was really asked to do for the most part for Ed Lamb. So Northern Colorado sits. Yeah. I mean, hey, it's wild to think that in 6-ish weeks at post WSU, we have gone from, you and I were on the show, and hey, we acknowledge, hey, when you're talking about losses, it is hard to know what to interpret that. But like the glass half full, half empty version of WSU was still Idaho being a solid team, no matter how you look at it. And now we're at the point where you're not going to hear us talking playoffs. No. That's not a discussion Idaho gets to have at this point.
Or winning record at this point.
Yeah, no, this is defense has to be back to square one. And yeah, it's wild because after that WSU game, we had a ton of enthusiasm about how things were going with Court Dennison and the talent that Idaho had retained. And honestly, I look back at that 100%. WSU helped Idaho out a ton in that game, and it's been a lot of it's downhill since, man. So
yeah, no, I mean that was our Super Bowl, and we played them to a 3-point loss that was really because they were dumb enough to keep us in it. And man, there's just not been a whole lot of positive sense. You know, we've talked about trying to see them and extrapolating things that we thought we could continue forward, but there has been no real progression or improvement from this team. Things just keep kind of falling off the wayside. For everything that has improved, of like the penalty situation has significantly cleaned itself up over the first 2 weeks compared to where things are now. But the actual on-field coaching has just hasn't been there, man. And it's really tough. I know Ed Lamb's been a coach for a long time. He's been a good coach for a long time. But it is really tough to come back from your bye week, have homecoming, and get completely pantsed by another staff like that. Like, made it look like our team and our coaches were just not prepared, and that really sucks. To like, that's the conversation that we're having. I fucking hate it. But before we get into more things that we fucking hated about this game, one thing we really don't fucking hate is vandalgear.com, guys. The best Vandal gear on the planet. If you're looking for anything Vandal related, they've pretty much got it. Coming to us from Pacific Custom Sportswear in Spokane, Washington. They've been in business for more than 25 years, working with the U of I and many other regional companies, schools, etc. They can work with you and your designs or your company to get anything you want printed up But then again, they've also got vandalgear.com. You can jump on, if you're looking live right now, you can see they've got some different game day Kibby Dome stuff. Again, they've got the Fight and Tater stuff, the 50th anniversary, Big Sky, yellow jerseys with the white and gray sleeve stripes. Obviously, they're not selling the jerseys. It's a T-shirt to reference those things. But you name it. T-shirts, sweatshirts, highest quality stuff. We got some Vandalizers gear in there as well. So if you want to support the student section, again, there's some official Vandalizers gear in there as well. Brian, I love my Fightin' Taters gear. Izzy wore her Fightin' Taters shirt today. Unfortunately, it did not bring us any good luck, but we do thank you, vandalgear.com, for being the best place to get the best and most affordable Vandal gear on the planet. Brian, offensively, this is where I have some serious fucking problems with the coaching staff. I understand coach speak, especially directly after an interview, or excuse me, directly after a game. I have been in enough Mike Leach interviews post loss that I know you're not going to get a bunch out of the coaches. But for Rocco Koch and Jack Wagner to have been brought up in as many times as they did in the press conference, Ford did say specifically, hey, Jack's a very capable guy. He's going to want some of those throws back. We didn't get him in a great position. Not enough things were easy for him. He didn't take care of the football very well. Again, a lot of that is like, yeah, it's all pretty empty, easy speak. But you get down to, he got asked about Rocco Koch, and he said, Rocco's a winner. He's very driven. He provides so much with his legs. He's a real +1 in our run game. His role's going to expand. Why the fuck didn't it expand during the game? Somebody needs to be watching that shit and actually figure it the fuck out, because he said at the very end of the conference, he got asked about the rhythm of the quarterbacks and the situational stuff. And it was, well, with Joshua Wood out, we wanted to get Rocco in there. Felt we needed him to help the run game, which was true. He looked pretty damn good in doing it.
He was the best rusher for Idaho today.
Yeah. But then he said Linehan did a great job getting Rocco involved in the second half. And I question, what are you fucking watching? Because I was not watching the same game you were. That second half, it was pretty apparent Rocco Koch needed to be out there. Rocco Koch was not out there very much. Where was Rocco Koch the last 3 possessions? Not on the field anywhere near as much as he needed to be. And when he was on the field, especially in the third quarter, he'd get a couple plays, and then there's just so much just staring at the sideline, because it's very obvious they're just kind of throwing shit at the wall to see what darts are going to stick, rotating between Wagner and Koch without any real rhyme or reason before it. That really frustrated me to hear, oh yeah, Linehan did a great job with the QB rhythm here. No. Did you watch that football game? Because I question what rhythm was Idaho in. Jack Wagner did not play particularly well. Crew had 76. The 2 drives that we had a chance to catch up, Rocco was not there. Like, again, I don't mean to like shit all over a guy. There's a reason Jack Wagner fell down the depth chart. Jack Wagner is out there missing short out routes, and Idaho's throwing the ball significantly more than they should be, because again, as we've spoken about many times this year, Idaho does best when they run the football. Yes, a lot of it is quarterback runs, but again, Idaho had 203 yards on the ground. It's a pretty damn good day. When your quarterback has 3 turnovers, what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to win that game. It takes a Manning, and certainly not Arch. It takes a Manning to win when you have 3 turnovers. Like, you have got to have somebody that is head and shoulders above everyone else on the field, and that's not Idaho.
I mean, look, I know that part of this was coming back, but hey, Dallas, I got a question for you. Bet you can answer it. In which game did Idaho's starting quarterback make the most pass attempts? Was it every single game the obvious, clear number 1 starter on the team was under center? Or was it the game the backup who cannot play without turn the ball over? 3 turnovers today. We know, like, and we saw this last year. Like, the dude can't throw it across the middle. Like, his throws, like Schleisner drew up last year, and I already answered it. Wagner's throws had to be sidelined last year, because then when he misses, it's out of bounds and not a turnover.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, question: which game did Idaho's quarterback have the most pass attempts on the season?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say it was this one, with Idaho using, again, quarterback 3 or 4 or 5, whichever you wanted to call him at that point, at minimum, or excuse me, at maximum 4, because Joseph did not see the field. So we know Joseph and B are behind Wagner. But behind that, Joshua Wood out, Sawyer Teeney out, Rocco Koch is, again, the weird package quarterback. Throwing the ball 33 times today was honestly offensive to the game of football. Look, Jack Wagner had a couple really, really nice throws, and that fourth down on that wheel route to Eli Cummings, man, he dropped that perfectly in the bucket. Hell of a throw. Again, those throws out, those deep throws outside the numbers, man, that's Wag's bread and butter. But there were enough throws over the middle of the field or short passes that were just not completed. This is not an offense that you can do that with.
No, and we saw the same thing we saw last year with Mark Hamper. If you guys remember, when Wagner was playing with Mark Hamper looked like a really rough receiver. By the way, he's starting at Cal now. He was an all Big Sky level player once Jack Lane made it. And one of the issues Wagner has is, we know he has an arm, but one, he's got to develop some touch on some of those short intermediate passes. But two, he doesn't throw with touch, but he just doesn't give enough gimme catches. Too many. He does have too many passes that bounce off receivers' hands, and those guys in theory should pick those up. But when a lot of them are like at the very edge of extension, when you're throwing it that hard, like, I don't know what else you expect to happen. I think Jesiaro did drop one like squarely off his hands. That was definitely not Wagner's fault. But a lot of the passes that bounced off players' hands, we absolutely saw that last year. No different. So, yeah, he co-signed the other stuff that you said. But secondarily, Koch was what energized Idaho. Koch making big plays was – thank you, Dawes. Rocco Koch making big plays is what brought Idaho back from the dead in this game. And he didn't get a chance to finish it out. It was clear, and this is the same thing we talked about. The weakness of Northern Colorado's defense is not the pass. That's actually what they're better at. And they got the quarterback too. We had 2 very bad picks from Wagner, one at the end, but still it was a pick, and a fumble lost on a sack. Like, all of those were 3 huge turnovers. But when Koch was running with that extra blocker, UNC did not have an answer for the most part. Yeah, average, 10 rushes, 81 yards. How did that not become instantly, you know what, we're going to ride this until UNC figures out how to stop it? And I don't think they will. And if they do, it's going to take a real damn long time. And that's the key to keeping this secondary that can't guard anyone off the field. That to me was what I just thought was. So I talked about Ed Lamb being flexible with what he allows his team to do. And I say Ed Lamb because I don't know who the OC is at UNC, and I don't know the delineation of play calling there. But ultimately, it's Ed Lamb's team. Thomas Ford's the guy to reference here, a guy we love on the show, guys. This is actually like hard. So I have to kind of prep myself when we have bad news to talk about for Idaho, because Thomas Ford is the easiest person in the world to root for, and I will continue to root for him. But it is his team. The buck does stop with him. If Matt Linehan does not want to keep Rocco Koch on the field because, I don't know, because he has a broken compass, which, by the way, I truly do feel Idaho offensively has a broken compass, and I really believe that's a huge part of that's play calling. Thomas Ford does have the ability to say, no, buck stops with me. No, well, we're going to ride with Rocco Koch, call plays appropriately. He has the ability to do that. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm not privy to those conversations there, but everyone in the Kibbe Dome saw Rocco Koch was the answer to bring Idaho back into this game. And Idaho would not take yes for an answer. Idaho would not abuse Northern Colorado with the one guy on the field they had no answer for. And that was, I don't care who you talk to in that game. Everyone in the stadium saw it, except Matt Linehan, apparently. So
yeah. Brian, I there's a lot of comments in our YouTube section of asking where was Joseph. And again, we have not seen a whole lot of what goes on behind the scenes, the daily practices. We don't have, ears on the coaching staff to tell us what is going on and why. All I know is last year, Joseph took that job from Jack Wagner and then got hurt, missed the rest of the season. Wagner, kept the team. Well, Wagner and what was a pretty solid defensive effort from Dan Jackson's squad with a secondary filled with like career, like legend vandals and guys that went to the NFL. Marcus Harris was obviously not here last year, but the year before had Marcus Harris ended up in the NFL. Man, I don't. What we saw out of Jack Wagner, Brian, and you have been a little bit more vocal about this than most of us have. What we saw from Jack Wagner was the exact same guy we saw last year. The throws outside of the numbers are going to be pretty solid. Outside of that, it is an experience on every play. Now, he got out of the pocket a couple times and looked pretty good doing it. And then also took a couple happy feet sacks and got to the point where as soon as he got the ball, he was just dancing around. I'm sorry for all of the folks that have been asking about this in the YouTube comments. Ross Warren, 100% Joseph should be quarterback number 2. I don't know. Last year, I think Brian and I both, Brian, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we both preferred Joseph over Wagner last year. No idea why he did not see any sort of time today, especially in a game that Idaho trailed realistically the entire time by multiple scores for all but the first 5 minutes when Northern Colorado was building that multiple score lead. James T.A., I don't think I've ever seen a wide receiver as open as Graves was today, not get a catch in the middle of the field. That was a little frustrating. There were a handful of times wide receivers got wide open. Some of it was like ECM had a corner fall down, and it was like, hey, he's wide open. You got to catch that.
Yep.
You got to see it.
Yep. I mean, I don't disagree. I'm not at practice. I did go to spring and some of the summer practices, and where Wagner had been on the depth chart previously. Like, I don't even know if he dressed for the WSU game.
He did not.
Okay, that seemed appropriate at the time. Now, hey, there's other things that happen between now and then that we're not there for. Exactly. So maybe Wagner had been showing some growth in practice. I know when I saw him and he wasn't getting the special Wagner treatment of only throwing to the sidelines in the spring and summer, he didn't look very good. He looked lost. I said on the show, he looked lost, not a put down. We hope that things get better for him because everyone wins if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I don't even think the point here is Joseph. I think the point is we had the answer this game in Rocco Koch, and Idaho wouldn't take it. Yeah. Even if Joseph had played, man, Dallas, I mean, you tell me if Joseph was doing what he can do, which that he can hit the short to intermediate, he struggles with deeper passes. Linehan has talked about that in the summer too. Yeah. If he was there hitting a few short to intermediate passes and then Rocco Koch comes in and does what he does, would you have been saying like, hey, let's get Joseph back in here? Like, no, of course. You'd be saying, no, this is the answer. We're like, this is an absolute just win by 1 point game when you don't have Joshua Wood in anything to get a W. And we had a guy who looked like he was breaking it open, and Idaho wouldn't go back to him. So that's why I say like it seemed like a broken compass to me with what Idaho's doing. And we've seen broken compass plays other times this season. Mm-hmm. We saw Idaho can finally run the ball, then gets cute at the end of the game against WSU. We saw a little bit of that against San Jose State as well. So I know, like, hey, Linehan's in his first year as a play caller. I know there's growth that can take place, and I know this was also what people with eyes will say is this was the second highest scoring output of the season for Idaho. So it's not like there was nothing that went well offensively. But there were a lot of problems to me that did not necessarily have to be there. And then just the complete confusion that I'm repeating myself again and again and again and again. You needed to find a way to run the ball against UNC. That's how teams have been effective against Northern Colorado the entire season. Jack Wagner, with his 3 turnovers, joins a long list of quarterbacks this season who have found that Northern Colorado is not an easy team to pass the ball against. Yeah. Rocco Koch could have joined a similarly long list of running backs, quarterbacks, whatever, guys who rush the ball, who find that, you know what, the Bears will give you some space to move. But he got 10 touches to do that. And That's part of why I leave this game frustrated. As bad as Idaho was defensively, and that is where I think the most ire for sure has just got to be, because like I said, Cal Poly COVID era bad on defense. It felt like it was more just completely needless misuse of you guys, especially not using Coke when he was as effective as he was. So that very, very just absolutely maddening.
Yeah,
I'll let you take it, man.
Brian, that's where it for me, it comes down to coaching. Yes, I think we can all say this team does not have the talent that the previous 3 X squads had, and
certainly not the depth.
Certainly not the depth.
Other than O-line.
Yeah, the O-line is a better unit than has been in many years. Are they like world beating excellent Dakotas and Montana State? No. Are they a top 4 line in the Big Sky? Absolutely. Some of those sacks were not necessarily on the offensive line, and that has been true in previous regimes and previous quarterbacks. But today, some of the hits Wagner took were not necessarily on the offensive line. Some of them were, for sure. But Brian, this comes down to, man, Cody fucking Hawkins, who I think has it tattooed like right on his arm so he never forgets to see it. Don't run the football. The guy would never run if he didn't have to. And they put up 300 yards on the ground against Northern Colorado because they identified what the issue was, where they were weak, where they could win, and they went and did it. And Idaho couldn't do it. And that, man, every bit of optimism I have had about this season was about, look, this is a really young team. They kept a bunch of the core from, yes, all of the names from the Eck era are gone, but the core of guys that got recruited here are still here. It's a young coaching staff that, again, Dennison has succeeded elsewhere. Thomas Ford was the coach of the year for winning a game at Simon Fraser because of how insanely difficult that is to do. Matt Linehan was a very good quarterback for Idaho, had been doing a pretty good job as a receivers coach. And then you get completely out-coached here and this has been the pattern, Brian, across this entire season. And I'm now at the point of saying, look, guys, I'm sorry. If you're a Tubbs listener, especially if you're a patron, I'm sorry. I have been so optimistic about this team. I thought the ceiling was a top 4 seed and the bottom was playoffs. And now I look at this team and the playoffs are gone. The season is over after this loss. The season is gone. That sucks, but it is. You have to run the table from here on out to make the playoffs. You do not have a resume that will get you in with 7 wins. You cannot lose another game from here on forward, which means you have Eastern Washington, Portland State, NAU, UC Davis, Sac State, and Idaho State. You have to go 6-0 in those games if you want to make the playoffs. You lose one of those, and what I'm saying right now, which is, again, season is over. All you got to do is lose one of those, and that final nail is pushed all the way in. And it sucks. I'm sorry, guys. I thought this team was going to really put it together. I know that Ford's got to rebuild here, and that's something I think we all thought this was going to be just kind of pick up the continuity and keep on rolling, kind of like Jeff Chode and when he left and Brent Vegan came in and they took a step up and only got better and better. We're not seeing that. That was a problem with the Eck era. The first handful of games were when that team was typically the best. It was also when they were the healthiest. But not a ton of progression through the season. And it seemed like at the end of the year, we were always kind of struggling on offensively. Defense was starting to give up a big play here and there. And we're seeing the same thing here, where there is just no growth. Ross Warren, the season has moved to watching individual growth players and coaches. That is really where I'm at right now is what youth here can be developed and built for 2026 to hopefully have a full real class from Ford and this staff. And let's move forward into 2026. Maybe the coordinators and coaches don't change. Maybe some of them do. There's a whole lot of growing that's got to happen in these 6 weeks for a lot of people to feel comfortable about coming back. And again, I'm not trying to sit here and say you got to go fire everybody, but man, at 2-4 right now, with the vibes that we were putting out vibes, but we were also picking up some of these vibes from the athletic department. There was a belief this was going to be a really good football team, and I think definitively this is not a very good football team.
Yeah, dude. Co-signed. I think there's more stuff that I want to hit on, but before that, sometimes you celebrate big wins, sometimes you forget big losses. And either way, guys, you can do that with Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey. It doesn't matter which Snake River you go with, either is a fantastic top of the line in Idaho Canadian whiskey buy. You have your entry level Snake River Stampede, 80% corn, 10% malted barley, 10% rye, double barrel finish, starts in ex bourbon, finishes in Oloroso sherry casks. I would not grab a 1915 for today's loss. That's their it's aged an extra 2 years. It's kind of their premium whiskey. It's double barrel finish. It starts in ex bourbon, finishes in ex Canadian rye whiskey. Either way, you cannot go wrong. Go get yourself to an Idaho State liquor store, grab yourself a Snake River Stampede today, the official whiskey that sponsors Tubs of the Club.
And the official drink of washing out the awful taste of one of the most humiliating losses I can remember in quite a while, Brian. This, at least when Petrino's teams were getting blown the hell out, it was because we all knew, hey, look, the decade nightmare is finally over and everyone has given up and there's going to be a reset button. We are 6 games into a new regime, and as Michael Long says in the Facebook comments, the body language of Koch versus Wagner was striking, and it certainly was, and it felt like that. It feels like that across the team, man. I won't say who it was that pointed it out, just because I don't know if they want it to be pointed out, but man, even this Vandal walk that is being developed is a lot of like guys with their heads down, headphones on, like not really engaging with the community, which is fine. You're getting prepared to play a football game. But if you're going to do that, you got to show up prepared. And man, even defensively, it just felt like guys were in practice half speed and routes were being run at half speed. And it obviously that's not what's happening, but it feels like that when the energy is just not there from the fans, from the team. It just feels like going through the motions. And man, this one hurt. This one broke me, Brian. I believed in this team until about 6 minutes into this game, and I went from thinking playoffs to this team's not going to win more than they lose.
No, you were a little, when we talked privately, you were always a little bit higher than I was, but I was high as well. You were like, hey, top 4. I was like top 8 after, WSU game, because the math was fix a couple things, maintain the rest. And that was the core. But that obviously that equation we just commented on was not at all has not been present this season. And the two other things I want to talk about. One, this hurt me too. Not that that's the point, of course, but I think we speak for Vandals everywhere where this game hurt. And the Petrino games, always a bad sign when that's the benchmark, right? The Petrino games, there was absolutely no love lost between Petrino and the fan base. Even when he was good, people didn't necessarily like him. I personally feel differently about a lot of the people who work on the staff that I've met. They're guys who are super easy to root for. I want to root for. I'm not hate watching an Idaho game here. I want things to work out because it makes my life better, but I want the coaches to advance here and make their lives better too. Like when Jason Eck moved on to New Mexico, yeah, it sucked. That was a good thing for him in his life, and he contributed a lot to Idaho. We call that a win on both sides. That's what we want at this point. And a game like this, obviously, you're reevaluating how you understand things. But second, say this all the time. Every Idaho home game feels like the Super Bowl, and never in a good way. Because that fan base, our Idaho fan base that X spent a lot of time building, and hey, Ford was involved there too. So it wasn't just one guy, but it took a long time to get Idaho to convince fans to show up. If you guys remember that first Drake game during X year 1, that was a pretty goddamn empty dome. And it took a lot of energy on X part, a lot of outreach, and a lot of wins to get to the point that we had those, back-to-back sellouts during was it Eastern Montana State, whatever. We had multiple sellouts in both of X's last 2 seasons.
6,800 for that Drake game, by the way.
Yeah. So this homecoming announced at 12,900, which still, for a homecoming, I mean, look, there's only room for, in theory, 1,100-ish more, but for a homecoming, I mean, not the dome looked nice. I wish it was sold out, but there, like, it was clearly a well-represented fan base.
It was 2,000 more than the Northern Colorado homecoming in 22, which was X's first homecoming.
Okay, so as a reference point, that is your chance if you're trying to build attendance to sell yourselves to the fan base of, no, guys, come. These games are fun. We win. You like what's going on. And then getting your ass kicked like this by Northern Colorado, who most people, if you have to be super into the Big Sky to understand that Northern Colorado is a surprisingly solid team this year, and still not a team anyone expects is going to like make the playoffs or something like that. A loss like that, I am horrified of what it's going to look like when Idaho hosts top 5 Portland State in a couple weeks.
4,000.
Yeah, that in my head, that's what I'm thinking is like, oh my God, we're going to have like somewhere between like 5,000, 6,000 or something like that. I hope I'm wrong. But at this point, like that's part of what I mean, though, when I say like Idaho always has so much at stake, especially at home games, where we got to convince people to keep coming. And what we did was the opposite. We showed the Boise guys like, no, don't spend 8 hours driving up here and 8 hours driving back.
Yeah,
it's
Brian, when the fan base is losing guys like Nick Davis, who's pretty open that he's not really that interested in coming back to a game for a while, man, like that dude bleeds Idaho. That dude does more for the athletic department and this school than most of us do. If you're losing those people this quick, it's a really bad fucking sign.
Yeah, dude. So that's the other thing I'm horrified about is like everything now has gone from at the start feeling like it was trending up to at least holding serve over the last few games. Because like, hey, the home games this season don't have Montana State Eastern. Those games where the attendance does get buttressed by a traveling fan base. We don't have those. So, we need every fan we can get to be there. And the big time to showcase what people saw was the worst defensive outing legitimately I feel like I've ever seen in the Kibby Dome. At least the worst defensive outing other than the one that got Petrino fired against an actually good Eastern Washington offensive team. Idaho made Northern Colorado look like they were that good. It was absolutely devastating to me on all accounts. There are no winners today in any way. The best we can now hope for is like I think what Ross said earlier is now we're looking at, hey, what are the things that can improve? And to hope Joshua Wood gets back, because I think people did not understand. And I say people, I mean, I've been all in on the Joshua Wood train, but I do not think the fan base at large was prepared for how much Joshua Wood papers over for this Idaho team, being able to throw the ball at a solid level and being able to run the ball at a high level. And we saw what this team looks like without him, which was not great. Honestly, not great at all. I
mean,
it's hard to talk about this without like ripping on individual guys. We don't mean to do it that way, but what else are you supposed to do? The secondary guard, no one. Quarterback play led to 3 turnovers that really did matter. A lot of drives that at least looked like they might become something, didn't. And I also think UNC, when they go over this tape, they're not going to say, oh yeah, UNC apex defensive outing today. Absolutely no way, especially when Coke got to run the ball.
Yeah, Brian, I and again, people are going to look back at the box and be like, I don't put up 33 points. It was a great effort. It was 35-17 at halftime. 33 points. Congrats on fucking making out with your sister. That's basically what you're doing right there. There's no fucking scoring here. Those are empty points that meant absolutely fucking nothing. Because what happened, Rocco Coke didn't see the goddamn field. And fourth quarter rolls around. Northern Colorado still scored more than Idaho did in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
They lose by 16. Congrats on getting to 33 points. The other team got to 50. Or they would have, and they would have gone well past that if they hadn't just surrendered and mercilessly just killed the clock with the knee. It was disjointed. It was ugly. There was just no real cohesion to me, Brian. I don't see. I know this is an instant reaction, Brian, but I don't see Idaho going better than 4-8 this season. This is going to be bad. You got to be real hopeful that Joshua Wood comes back real fucking fast and has the games of his life against Eastern and Portland State and gets this team like on a real fucking heater, because you're going to go into Northern Arizona, UC Davis, Sacramento State, and Idaho State, and you might not be favored in any of those 4 games for a very good reason.
Oh, good Lord. UC Davis, Idaho State, and NAU saw this game and thought, okay, well, pencil in a dub.
Yeah. Then again, Sac State, like you said, Williams might be able to only throw 1 pick instead of 3.
Yeah, no, if you can't put pressure on Sac State to make the quarterback play matter, then Sac State's a bad matchup for you.
Yeah.
It's insane to me how quickly this season turned on its head, because I really do think that, parsing out the glass half full, glass half empty from this season is harder than you'd guess, because that team we saw at San Jose State that should have won that game. Like, that's maybe the other big takeaway is if you should win the game and you don't, that means there's some problems. Mm-hmm. But Idaho that played San Jose State looked like they would have beat the Idaho who hosted Northern Colorado by 30 points. Yeah. But things change. Things change in the course of the season. Now, they can also change for the better, which is what we're at the point of now hoping. But no longer are Eastern and Portland State, the leftover we talked about, no longer are those tune-up games. Those are you got to get W's to at least hope that season 1 doesn't look like a complete faceplant. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about end of the season stuff and like player things, because we're going to have a lot of time to do that in 2025, 2026 football, the way these things are. But you also have to expect, in the same way that I really do think Linehan and Dennison should both, especially Dennison, should feel like they're coaching these next 6 games for their lives. Yeah. A lot of the underclassmen who are playing have got to feel like they're playing for their careers at this point, because I got to say, we know Thomas Ford knows how to recruit. There is no way that guy is going to take his entire head coaching career that he worked pretty goddamn hard to get to this level, especially after, the record recruited Simon Fraser, which we know, you and I at least are on the same page. We don't think it's fair to bring that up. No. If you're not actually looking at film, which no one is from that point. But the dude had to work pretty damn hard to get here. Yeah. There is no way that secondary that we see right now in Idaho is he going to put his career in those guys' hands for another season, unless something radically changes. So same way, I think some coaches have got to be coaching for their careers at this point. Some players, if they want to continue to be D1 players at the Big Sky level, they're playing for their lives too at this point.
I do want to hit the comment section very quickly. What Line of Fire 95 Wood ain't going to fix the defense. And no, and that's, the defense has so much farther to go than the offense does. But for me, Joshua Wood has turned the ball over once on a pick that was not as egregious, twice.
Yeah, he has a lost fumble too.
Oh, the fumble. Thank you. I forgot about the fumble. He has the one interception. That was what I was thinking about. The one interception against St. Thomas that was very obviously, hey, this play is scripted. It's going to be open. It wasn't open. He still threw it anyway, threw a pick. Kind of like Wagner's first play that was, I don't even know how that happened. That
he threw it to the wrong guy down the middle. That's how it happened.
Well, the first interception was 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, and he threw it right into the defender's hands.
I know. Sorry, I got lost. You're talking about the second, because there's plural turnovers for us to parse.
I'm talking about Wagner's first throw of the game. Okay. Anyways, semantics. What I'm getting at is, I don't think Joshua Wood turns the ball over 3 times in this game.
No,
that's how this offense changes. I don't think this offense sprints to 3 and out on drive number 2 and punt out of the end zone. I think Joshua Wood is able to keep things rolling a little bit better than the continuity of Koch and Wagner being alternated out every 3 to 5 plays. I do think that makes things better for Idaho in the long run. Does it necessarily win this game against Northern Colorado after such honestly a putrid defensive showing? No, probably not. But I do think it cleans up a little bit of those issues with the offensive where it was just disjointed half of the time. And line of fire 95. Agreed. So we're saying keep the defense off the field as much as possible is the goal. Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing here is the defense will look a whole lot better when they're only on the field for 15 minutes.
Yeah, Patty Frick saying I felt like most of the defensive woes were just guys losing one-on-one matchups in the secondary. Correct. Yeah, no, they're getting abused one-on-one. Dallas, like you and I get to finally disagree on something. I think if we had a standard Joshua Wood game and Joshua Wood got to throw it 33 times like Jack Wagner did, I think Idaho probably would have won this game because most fans are not like this, but I just want to address this because one of the dumbest ways to be a fan is to always say, no matter what, if the team's record isn't fantastic or something's frustrating, let's go with the backup quarterback who is usually most of the time a backup for a reason. We got to see that today. Joshua Wood has, like I said, he has 2 turnovers in 5 games. Jack Wagner had 3 in 1. I don't think you need to go any further than that. But if Wood's able to play a normal game, Northern Colorado scored off those turnovers. You take those away. Now, this probably turns into a San Jose State type of game of whoever's got the ball last is going to win. But that's very different than being down 40, than being mercy ruled out of UNC scoring 50.
Yeah. I mean, out of it being a 17-point game with 13 minutes left and knowing at that point, yeah, this is over.
Yeah. Which is a long kind of circular way of us saying, yeah, Joshua Wood's a pretty damn big deal for this team. Joshua Wood radically changes what this team is. And I think maybe part of why you talked about this in previous episodes, Dallas, part of why Idaho does what they do is at some level they knew their secondary was this bad. And Idaho really does have to play completely to keep that secondary off the field and to make other teams feel like, like they can't exploit them for some reason, or I don't know. But every team is going to be doing that from here on out, except maybe Portland State, who might literally be the only team who cannot do that because of talent. Eastern, I don't know.
And honestly, let's see what happens. Brian, at this point, I'm not confident in the coaching staff to outcoach anybody.
The team we saw today beats no one in the Big Sky, except maybe Portland State, and that's it.
And that's that's the top 5 game of the year right there. And that's not a place I want to be. Idaho won the time of possession with 3 fucking turnovers today, Brian, and still looked like this.
Hold up. I mean, we know why that time of possession was what it was, is because when you're allowing deep vertical pass plays all the time, you don't have long times of possession because you move 50 yards in 10 seconds.
God, just I got nothing, Brian. This broke me. It sucks. I thought this was going to be a continuation of the Eck joy, and it's again. This is the instant reaction, overreaction part. It's feeling like those 3 years of Eck were the mirage, and the previous 30 years of Vandal football were what Vandal football truly is.
No, like the version that I would push back here is look at Northern Colorado for a second as a reference point. Phase 1. If that's your comparison point, things are not looking good, guys. But Ed Lamb had 2 very bad years, including a lot of people frustrated with play calling to the point that on our show, because we watch Northern Colorado, we have experience seeing Ed Lamb be stubborn about running the ball when the team cannot run. That's why we talked about Northern Colorado the way we did. And then when Ed Lamb said what he said in the press conference before this game about needing to reestablish the run, that felt on brand for a guy who thought there was a right way to win. And then it turned out Ed Lamb found the right way to win is to win, which is to say, Lamb took some time to develop. Some coaches do. Even though he'd been a head coach previously, when he came back, what UNC was took some time to figure out. I think what you have to hope for is to say that Thomas Ford has some growing. He's got to figure out how to do both as a leader and both the coaching staff around him, to make things work better. We've seen him be very good as a position coach here. We've seen special teams look tight when Thomas Ford was the coach of that. That was part of why we were stoked. The other reason that I'm saying I don't want to talk about this as a main point, but a thing to not forget, Thomas Ford can recruit. And you can bet the guys he recruited, let's say, to the secondary, if they're not going to show up anymore, we don't need to worry about them showing up in 2026. So that's where I would just nudge you guys towards, is that's where we kind of have to hope we are now, is that the coaching staff is going to grow. Players will get better too. And that's how things change. But from this point on this show, you're not going to hear us talk about playoffs. You're going to hear us talk about individual matchups, and then send the comment section what's getting better and what's not, because that's where this team is. You lose to you let Northern Colorado score 49 on you at home. You got no business even pretending the playoffs are a discussion for you, because at this point that they're not.
They're not. So the season's over, Brian.
Season's over.
Yeah, it just. It sucks.
Yeah. So we'll say patreon.com/Tubs the Club. If you're going to be miserable during these games, you might as well have company, which the comment section was pretty wild here. Most games, it's a little bit different. I don't think it was unreasonable at all. It was still active. It's just like when it's all bad news, that's what it is. But if you want to talk Vandal sports, dude, it's the place to be. So support the show. Costs less than a cup of coffee a month to support us, Tubs the Club. You do that, you join our hashtag only Tubs Discord. So patreon.com/Tubs the Club. Ross Warren says a point that maybe we should also keep in mind. Now, this is a little more dramatic than I would state it, Ross, but Ross says Ford cannot win with someone else's guys. We'll see if he can win with his guys. Now, what he might push back is say Ford did help recruit a decent amount of the guys here.
Specifically mentioned he recruited Rocco in the postgame.
Yep. But I think that it is also fair for us to say it's pretty normal in the cycle of a coach's tenure. Look at, Brian Wright at NAU. Things went a little better in year one for Brian Wright at NAU, but it's pretty normal for continuity year one, bigger turnover year two, and move on from there. Ed Lamb had to have big turnover back-to-back years. Northern Colorado had around 20-ish letter winners returned from last year. I think maybe we missed this a little bit because Ford was at Idaho before, but to be at the literal level correct, this is his first year as a head coach. So you can bet there's going to be some guys that need to come into and out of this program in that time, and that he should probably get a similar understanding of what the talent around him is during his first year compared to the years heading into the future. I will say in the press conference, Thomas Ford was doing the stuff that we praised Jason Eck for previously, of when things weren't working. He points the blame at himself first. Now, I will also say a thing I like about Thomas Ford, and I really hope people don't bastardize this as listeners and start complaining about this being callouts. Ford will also give a literal correct description of what he saw as being a problem in the game, and that will imply some people do not play as well as everyone wishes. And I hope as a fan base, people understand that's a good thing to have a coach who will talk that way, and not, someone calling out people or something like that. Like, as for example, in the Montana game, when Ford correctly described, Joshua Wood extended plays because no one was open. And that's how we made it work. That's not calling out the receivers. That is correctly describing what took place. When Ford correctly describes that Jack Wagner had 3 turnovers, and Ford correctly describes that the DBs, no matter what formation they went with, were getting beat. That is, I hope people understand that's the type of thing you want from a coach, because that means our press conferences actually give you something, and he values you as a listener enough to actually give you something. But there's just no way to look at this and think that your paradigm's got to change on Idaho.
Yeah, I think, Brian, we're an hour and 15 minutes into this. I think we're circling the same point here of look, things have got to change. This was a winnable game that was lost by poor execution from players, poor game plans from coaches. There's semantics on how deep the issue lies on both sides, but we both still believe in Thomas Ford. We know the guy can recruit. We've seen his special teams have been outstanding when he was the direct coordinator. There's still enough things here that tell me this guy can turn things around. I just don't know that it's in this year. And if it's not in this year, then it does start opening up the questions of, are your coordinators the right guys? Are some of your position coaches the right guys? Are the personnel that you have in here, what changes need to be made to just the roster as a whole? Not just saying, hey, obviously need more depth at corner. Yeah, I think everybody, Helen Keller could probably have seen that if she was there. As Crewhead 76 says, need lots of dudes. But maybe it's time to reevaluate if Josh Wood is coming back. Excuse me, Joshua. I know he prefers Joshua. Joshua Wood comes back. If he's the quarterback in 2026, and you do have a guy that is pretty comfortable with the 1 read, 2 read, bail out of the pocket and extend something. Yes, I prefer the guy that stands in the pocket and goes through 4 reads before dumping it off. That's not Joshua Wood. If Joshua Wood's going to be the guy and you're going to build a team around him, let's commit to some of the things that he can do. And maybe that means changing the way that the offense is constructed. Maybe it means not as much of a focus on the tight end room. It was nice to see Chance Bogan got a couple catches today. Maybe that's a spark in the tight end room, because we have not seen Hoffman do much. And we know Jake Cox is a great blocker. Hasn't been a great receiver. We know that there's a lot of change that probably needs to be made here. Is Thomas Ford going to nail those changes? And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, that'll dictate how well things end up working. Like James says in the comment section, maybe we go 6-0 and win the Natty with 4 losses. Thanks, James. Maybe we go 0-6 and skyrocket Snake River Stampede sales. Either way, someone wins. Yeah, dude. I'm glad you feel that way, James. I do know that no matter what, if I'm at a home game and I see you taking pictures on the sideline, I am going to yell at you. So you're welcome. Done it. Sitting at 2-0 at least on that so far. We'll find 3-0 Portland State. But yeah, man. Tomorrow I've got the Big Sky show, and it's devastating that I have to essentially turn Idaho into a dustbin team in that show for right now, other than to talk about what's happened. We'll be back. Dallas, you're gone for the Eastern episode, so we'll have We'll have someone who's not you join us this week on Thursday.
I won't be here Sunday either, or Saturday, excuse me. So I'm out all Eastern week, so that's why I wore the Eastern red glasses in memorial.
The Eastern reaction will be weird. I don't know if we'll be able 100% to do it. Just timing, but we'll get there, guys, when we get there, which is not today. Today is a time of morning. So
it's actually
thanks for joining us. Wild to me that we had 50-ish, right around that number of listeners for an hour and change of talking Idaho losing with one of the just, I guess, Dallas, if you had to rank, or if you had to compare, kick in the nuts losses, what's another Idaho kick in the nuts loss you'd compare this to?
Oh boy. It sucks, but I go back to the, I think it was 2017. It might've been 2018. No, I guess it would have been, because 2017 was the final year of Sunbelt, so it would have been 2018. The Petrino family debacle in I guess it would have been second year, so it would have been 2019. Regardless, whatever it is, the Petrino family debacle that happened in Greeley, that one to me was, I think, the biggest kick in the nuts that I think had ever happened. Where both Petrinos get flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct, and Idaho pisses away a winnable game and then continues to just piss away the first 4 years of returning to the Big Sky. That this feels like that to me, Brian, of just what are we doing? Fuck. Now I'm thinking about that fucking Petrino family fucking that game in half. Yeah, that for me, Brian. I just pulled it up. Stats department, September 28th, 2019. Idaho loses 27-24 to Northern Colorado after back-to-back unsportsmanlike calls off of the field.
Yeah, I can't compare it to Petrino losses because I have already stated about the no love lost. But my comparison, it crosses sports, guys, so forgive me. 2 basketball losses. First, 2008, 2009, Don Verlin takes over Idaho. They go from garbage to a couple games over 500 and immediately lose in the first round of the WAC tournament. That was absolutely devastating. And the second one, another Verlin team, the 2017-2018 Vic Sanders team, they go 22-8 on the regular season, earn a first round bye in the Big Sky Conference tournament, and lose round 1, or their first game right away. Those are the 2 that I'd pay attention to. The type of loss this was. Well, we haven't seen that for at least 3 years here. So, yeah, man.
We haven't seen it for, at least on the football team, we haven't seen it for longer than that, because 2021, we all kind of knew what we were getting into. That team ended up being pretty fucking terrible. Again, as we'd expected. The COVID year, we were thinking, hey, we might finally have a quarterback. We had a little bit of excitement.
Well, if you were alive back then, you were also just happy to have football at all.
That's also a good point. So, and then again, those first 2 years of Petrino, outside of that Northern Colorado game, that was like the final nail in the coffin for me of like, yep, he's never going to figure it out. This whole dropping back to the FCS and we're going to be a bully immediately, not happening.
Yeah.
But you got to go back to the achy days of there's Super George 111 Rob Akey losing 70-0 in the Butt logo game. I don't remember if Akey was the coach for that, but those were, again, all of those years tend to blur together because a lot of it was really bad outside of the bowl wins. So, Brian, we're an hour and a half into the show. Any final thoughts on wrapping up Northern Colorado's instant reaction, or our apology for being so bullish on this team until we were kicked in the dick repeatedly about it?
Not me saying giving up 62 to ISU in 2018 was pretty freaking bad. So I'm going to say that. James TA saying, nothing I've seen this season has made me want to yell, run to the parking lot, get in your car, and never come back to a coach. So at least there's that.
I like Line of Fire 95. We have a shitload of bad memories to choose from.
Yeah, man. James, no one's there. And like most people are saying enough to know that the coach is in his first year. Like we do kind of need to see some growth. Turnover does take time. It's just, I think at Idaho, we were hoping we were further along than we thought based off the depth pieces retained from last year. And it just turns out that not all depth pieces are starters. And, that's where Idaho is. So
last thing here, Crewhead 76 bringing up Montana kicking our ass in Pullman in 2000. Our DBs sucked.
That sounds familiar.
It's I didn't want to bring up the Tom Cable thing, but if we're talking, I had best case scenario for this program was a top 4 seed this year. Worst case scenario for this program right now is that we are headed into the Tom Cable era and we don't fully realize it because we're gonna stick around that 500 mark by the end of the year and then things are going to fucking send themselves right off a cliff into a hole that we can't come out of for years.
Now, of course, to be fair, this far in, no one has a goddamn idea if that's correct, because there are a lot of things that can change between now and then. Phase one, to put a button on it, being what I brought up already, is coaches make an improvement and, potentially fighting for their lives. Players make an improvement, fighting for their D1 lives as players. And we all know, guys, the downside of the season-ending roster turnover is you lose guys, but sometimes you need to lose guys. So again, there's no way the head coach here is going to bet his entire career on the level we saw from the secondary being good enough, or the pass rush Idaho's been able to get this season. There's no way he's gambling his career saying that's good enough for the next couple of years. But I don't think people should waste their time thinking years in advance, because we got a lot of stuff right now that's got to play out in front of us. I'm still, good or bad, I'm going to be there for it. So I expect, we got 50 listeners. We're approaching an hour and a half of talking about one of the worst Idaho game of the last 3.5 years. We got some other people who are going to be there for it too. So Dallas, I'm fine calling it tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone in the comments section. Thanks for supporting the show. Some nights suck, some nights are good, but no matter what, it's always a good day to be a Vandal. So
as long as you got SRS to wash away all the pain.
Yeah, man.
With that said, Brian and Martin and guest TBD will be with you guys next week for the Eastern preview and possibly Eastern reaction. I should be back the week after that. Hopefully the Vandals will pick up a win in my absence. And if they win, maybe I just won't come back. Maybe I will just let you guys figure that out. Maybe I'm the problem here. But we will find that out next week.
Very funny. Like you would miss top 5 Portland State.
That's a good point. Very good point. Gotta take the chance to see Coach Barnum 69 one last time. With that said, guys,
go Vandals. Go Vandals.
This is producer Brian doing a terrible job of even finding what we're going to play us out with. So we're just going to call it good. See you guys Tuesday.